or South Pole. Wherever you hit on the map, you're going to find an existential problem that is a direct product of Western imperialism, white folks. And yeah, they coerce us to participate. They went around the world and say, hey, we have this wonderful system called capitalism, and it's going to bring you democracy. It's wonderful. And everywhere they went, in Africa, Middle East, Asia, everybody told them, we don't want that, man. Hey, do your thing. We got our way, you got your way. No, tell you what, you don't worship our God, you don't set up our governing system, you don't accept our economy, then it's rape, murder, slaughter time. When some people are like, fine, we'll accept all of that. We'll take on your God, we'll worship your God, we'll accept your economy, and we'll set up your governing system. And they're like, ha, trick, it's still rape, murder, slaughter time. Show me wrong. Go find me a history book. Go get a history book, even written by, white historians out of the Ivy League. Show me where I'm lying. Damned if you did, damned if you didn't, and we still damned. And now our thing was, well, we want to get integrated and full equality. And the only thing that does is make you complicit. When you get equality with your oppressor, you're equal with your oppressor. So instead, we thought we get freedom when we get integration. But no, we were coerced into participating in the rape, murder, slaughter. But I digress. It's really disgusting. The United States is priming itself. The U.S. war machine is primed for open slaughter genocide in Venezuela. There's already genocidal sanctions, which is a war crime. Sanctions are an act of war. If China came out tomorrow and said, we're going to stop all exports to America from China, the United States would call that an act of war. The United States would go to the UN and try to get a resolution to compel China to reopen its exports to the United States. If that didn't work, then they would mobilize the U.S. military to go there and destroy that regime. Because sanctions are an act of war. And you cannot have an act of war. You cannot declare war unless the UN gives you permission to. And the UN is heavily biased towards the West. Like I said, if I was the head of an African country or a non-aligned country, of a so-called third world country, if I was the head, first thing declaration I would do is leave the UN. The UN is disrespectful and ineffective for when it comes to justice and holding the Security Council nations accountable. The UN is voluntary colonialism. But anyway, the United States has a blockade around Venezuela. The United States is intimidating other nations, such as Germany, such as France, and telling them, if you trade, if you do deals, if you export medicine to Venezuela, we will attack and sanction your country too. And if you are a company that attempts to proceed and do business with Venezuela, we will do the same. But then, of course, like with Trump, there's always backroom deals. But they are allowing some U.S. corporations to go in and extract some oil and generate some revenues. Also, there are sanctions on things like insulin. Now, what they tell us about sanctions is like the Iraq war sanctions under Bill Clinton. What he told us was it was going to prevent, or the sanctions against North Korea and Iran, they tell us it is prevent those nations from developing weapons of mass destruction. So they have these aluminum tubes. Y'all remember the aluminum tubes? There's certain construction and technological resources that can be weaponized. You receive these goods, even fertilizer. They can make, primitive fertilizer bombs. But how do you justify sanctioning or banning the import of rice or insulin for diabetics? How do you weaponize rice or insulin? Even if you say we're not going to send gunpowder, we won't even send it like industrial fertilizer. Not that I agree with it, but if they were trying to pretend to be something other than genocidal mass murderers, if they were trying to pretend like they really wanted to help the people of Venezuela instead of hurt, because white folks have this thing where they say when a country decides that it's not going to govern its country in the way that Europe or the United States wants it to, they say they make the economy scream. And so there are people there dying, going into diabetic comas. There are people there that get, just like in Iraq, just like in Cuba, just like in every other place that comes under illegal U.S. sanctions. I'd say a good 10% of the Trump administration, if not the entire State Department, should be up on charges right now. There are some pencil pushers that might be able to, that shouldn't be arrested if they testify against their colleagues. But the State Department is complicit in the mass murder, the unnecessary suffering of millions of people. And we sitting back, oh, Maduro. Let me tell you something. By the time Americans, a good percentage of U.S. citizens know the name of a foreign leader, you know that guy's being set up for a slaughter. You ask any American, name a Latin American leader. All they know, Castro and Maduro. They don't know any other Central American, Latin American, or Caribbean leader. Because we only learn leaders' names when the U.S. is ready to murder them. We all found out who Noriega was. Nobody knew who Panama, who's governing, who's the president of Panama right now. Don't nobody know. We all remember who. Can you name a Latin American? Yeah, I remember Noriega, N-O-R-E, Nori. We all know him. We all know Saddam. Can't name anybody else. Because by the time U.S. masses know the name of a foreign leader, that foreign leader is being demonized and set up for murder, coup d'etat, extortion, bribery, or some other dirty trick. And let me tell you something else about Venezuela. Right now, the Venezuelan traitors, they got this man down there named Juan Guaido, who Donald Trump says the elected president Maduro is not the president, and they pick literally some random dude from the Venezuelan Congress and say, we recognize you as the leader. Juan Guaido is a traitor to his nation. He's cooperating with foreign hostile interests. I don't know why Maduro does not put Juan Guaido in jail. In fact, at this stage, when your country is under direct and hostile internal and external subversion, it's time to go to martial law. Venezuela needs to be under state of emergency. I don't understand why these leftist presidents, these leftist rulers, these leftist regimes don't take it to the mat. It's time to start taking heads, Maduro. What the hell are you waiting on? It's time to arm the masses of the people. It's time to set up guerrilla factions. What is he doing? He's going to the UN. The UN can't help you, Maduro. These public statements about, America is a criminal nation. We know it. And there's no one available to hold the U.S. accountable for its crime. You better look at Palestine. You better look at the Afghanis. You better look at the Iraqi insurgents. It's time to go into the hills. It's time to dig the trenches, Maduro. You should arrest Juan Guaido and all of the opposition leaders. And let's keep it. If it was me, let me not say what I would do. This is the same thing I said about Aristide in Haiti. The moment that you had months to prepare for the U.S. Marines arriving at your shore. Let me tell you, Ronald Reagan and many other U.S. Listen, there's only one thing that the U.S. understands, Maduro, if you're listening. And if you're not listening, it's someone who can translate this to Spanish and tell them. The United States understands MAD, M-A-D, mutually assured destruction. The only thing that's going to protect Venezuela now is to demonstrate to the West that they have the equal capacity and will to kill them as the Western imperialists have to kill them. And what you will have to do, because you cannot withstand a standard engagement with the U.S. armed forces. But you've seen throughout history, and right now, there are asymmetrical warfare going on that the United States is not able to endure. And you can fight the U.S. and all the imperial forces and their lackeys in Colombia, their lackeys in Brazil, and tell them, throw down the tomahawk. Tell them just like the Taliban said. Throw down the tomahawk. Let's get down. Let's do this. You coming into our land. We know our territory. We know where the resources are. We will end this before it starts. And right now, the United States is in Afghanistan, even after dropping 7,400 bombs, dropping 20 major bombs, and those are the known. Because for every bomb that they drop that gets reported to the CNN, that gets reported to New York Times, there is another bomb that goes off that is clandestine. Understand that you have the Pentagon, which has its own force of military drones and bombings. But then you have the NSA and the CIA that have their own military. They have their own Air Force, and they have a black budget. So they don't have to report their bombs. So I'm pretty sure 7,000 bombs is more than 20 or 30,000 bombs when you really look at it. When you go into the clandestine war. Remember when they were in Vietnam and they had a whole separate war in Laos and Cambodia? And everybody was, Vietnam. They were bombing the whole region. They weren't limited to one country. They used the Vietnam War as coverage for other wars. So I'm telling you, I don't understand what Maduro, you need to take off them damn ties, take off them damn suits, and do like Hugo Chavez. See, Hugo Chavez, that preceded Maduro, he understood. You know, Hugo would show up in military fatigues. He was like 4'3", little pudgy, little, pale, Papa Smurf looking dude. But he understood. He's like, y'all step to this country. What it's going to be is a quagmire. I'm going to fight you to a daytime. I'm going to fight you to a standstill. And I'm going to force U.S. soldiers and the U.S. military to spend hundreds of millions of trillions of dollars to subdue this country. And everywhere you go, every township, when you take over one town, another town's going to have a major uprising. And then when you have to shunt your resources to the next town, the town you just shunt your resources is going to have an uprising. And you're going to spend money, you're going to lose lives, and you're going to be bogged down here. And if you're bogged down in Venezuela, then you can't go and fight in the Middle East. Just like when you were bogged down in the Middle East, you had so much trouble controlling the Latin America. That's what Che Guevara said. That's what Kwame Nkrumah said. Revolutionary warfare. You got to have simultaneous uprisings all over. That's where the African Revolution failed and the Haitian Revolution in America failed, and it succeeded because you would have these isolated uprisings. If you had an uprising on dozens of plantations at once, it's over. But you get one plantation uprising, and then they suppress that one. They play whack-a-mole with our ancestors. But if all the moles come up at once, but in Haiti, they had a nationwide uprising all at the same time. That's what you need if we're going to overthrow Western imperialism. Even if you love, I love my iPhone, and I love the Grammys, and you love all the wonderful things that white domination gives to you, all the trinkets and treats. If you love Gucci that much, even if you are that sick and empty inside, think about the ecosystems. Because the air quality don't give a damn how much money. There's only so many filters you can set up in your mansion. There's only so many toxins you can filter out of the water. There's only so many pieces of pure soil left where you can grow your organic heirloom seed, pumpkins and strawberries. So even if you have all this money, what's good is fiat on a dying planet. We should have stopped the U.S. before it went into Iraq. We should have stopped the Afghan war. Y'all should have stopped Vietnam from previous generations. We should have stopped Libya. We should have stopped the numerous invasions of Haiti. We should have stopped the Panama War. We can stop the Venezuelan attack. And if we can't stop it, if U.S. citizens are just too fat, stupid, and lazy to do something about it, then it's up to the Venezuelan people to save themselves. And I would tell the Venezuelan people, you're going to have to save yourselves because Americans are overfed, ignorant babies. Black people are now pro-war, because we feel like we're in it. And let me tell you something. To be a true American citizen, to be a true descendant of American slaves, to be fully integrated into the American economy and the American politics as black people, we have to become traitors of all other black people everywhere else in the world. You cannot be loyal to America and loyal to humanity. I said it. You cannot be loyalty and supportive of the policies of the United States and be a humane, just, righteous, or whatever other kind of person you imagine yourself to be. Howard Zinn said before he died, you can't be neutral on a speeding train. So you are complicit, unless you're in open opposition. So that blood is on your hand. It really disgusts me. And I can get a rally to cancel out Mayweather, and Mayweather's disgusting. Don't get me wrong. But people, damn, what to do? But I digress. And also, maybe y'all don't care about the Mexicans, because anything south of the border, we talked about this. The demographics of Venezuela, 16% African, which is a hustle, because 51% of the people in Venezuela, 51.6 if we have to be precise, identify as mestizos or morenos. And a mestizo or a moreno is anybody with a mixture of a various concentration of African, Amerindian, I don't know why they don't call them Native Americans, but Amerindian and European conquistador blood. That's over half the population. Only 2.7% of the population is actually native. So, you think the United States was less efficient in slaughtering. That's why, a lot of these Latin countries are racist AF. That's why when somebody come here and say, oh, I'm Hispanic, you should support me. Like down in their own countries, they're white, racist, oppressive, and all that. But then they come here and all of a sudden, they adopt a new identity in order to win our sympathy. So I continue. So the demographics there is we got a significant number of our own people there. Because many people, they might be Moreno or Mestizos south of the border. As soon as they cross that southern border, they become black. And they are literally lynching black people in the streets because, of course, black people being the most progressive and the most humane people support the Chavistas. They are Bolivarians. So they support the progressive revolutionary socialist government and policies. In fact, many of our people down there don't think that the government goes far enough. So they are literally setting our people ablaze on the street. And if you got the kind of stomach to see it, I've seen the video where there are white Venezuelans who set a black man on fire and watch him burn. And when the black man tries to, run out of the and get some aid to put the flames out, they push him back to the center of the circle. But it's all for American freedom. And we all know, since Venezuela is reported to have the largest oil reserves, and even John Bolton, another mass murderer genocidist, stated that we're going there to get that oil. There have been a number, for over 20 years, since the beginning of the Bolivarian Revolution, there have been a number of assassinations, failed coup attempts, there's been bribery. The United States has engaged in a criminal campaign against that nation, at the same time talking about democracy. And we're all complicit. And you even got so-called liberals. Well, Venezuela's misgoverned. If a nation being misgoverned justified invading it, then why hasn't the United States been invaded? Give me a nation that has been more misgoverned, that has violated more of its own and international laws than the United States. I'll wait. The reason why people don't care is because the United States steals and robs at such a scale that it's able to trickle down some benefit to the so-called middle class. And the United States has the most sophisticated system of mass indoctrination that has ever been developed by any system in the history of human existence. So Americans are overfed on toxic food and over-indoctrinated on misinformation. And based on the structure of this government, believe it or not, the United States is still very vulnerable to public sentiment. If the public got organized, if a small percentage of the public got organized, you could still have great impact on U.S. policy. You don't believe me? Look at New York City right now. They ousted Amazon. They kicked Amazon out. Now, it upset me because I have to be, like I said, I'm not the most righteous man. When Amazon announced that it was going to D.C., to the DMV area, it was going to split its headquarters. They're going to put half of it in New York and half of it in the DMV area. And New Yorkers were like, hell to the no. Now, I think New York's fight against these corporate incursion is too little too late. They let Disney take over 42nd Street. I think it's too little too late, but still, it's a victory. But now the problem is Amazon might pivot back to Chicago. And we already got that ridiculous ass, disgusting ass Obama Center, that monument to a man's talk about toxic masculinity. If Obama's not in your toxic masculinity, then you ain't really about justice. But, so we might have to mount our own anti-Amazon fight. We might talk more about that, the corporate hustle and welfare. But anyway, right now it's 808, TR 808. That's D-Nice, my theme music.